Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who give us the opportunity to continue our da'wah work, to give free life coach training program throughout the world for the next 12 years. Inshallah, we're going to train 12,000 of you. Through our program, which we have videotaped more than 600 videos, Islamic motivation, Islamic coaching, mentoring and counseling, and you just choose 30 videos and you can get certified. Go to our website islamicspsychology.net and find the details. So we are also doing a lot of research, and now we are putting emphasis on how to create awareness among the ummah, all Muslims, the 1.7 billion Muslims, of this impending disaster of climate change, and how we can work together positively to Islamic Climate Action Network, ICAN. So this is what we are doing, and I've given you a few videos where we need to work on at ourselves, our family, society, the Ummah, global, and work together with all humanity to overcome this very grave challenge that we're going to face. So there are many issues which I have given you in the previous videos. Alright, so we have to work out a way in which we can overcome these challenges, and I have now brought you in the previous video of Professor Bendell from Cumbria University. He's one of the well-known researcher in terms of climate change and sustainability. He's an expert in sustainability. So how are we going to overcome this challenge is something that we have to work out, and he is a specialist in what he called deep adaptation, how we're going to adapt to the situation. Alright, and what is his outcome is just like many other, more than 25,000 IPCC panel scientists now. They are getting more and more very negative report, and a lot of them, especially, for example, recently 300 of the climate scientists from America has banded together to give a warning to Donald Trump about the impending disaster to America itself. So what is Bendell saying is that a collapse is coming. We can deny, but then how we're going to go about with it is something that we have to figure out, and we have to let go a lot of things that we have taken for granted. So what is important is for us to work together within the next 30 years, resolve this challenge, and inshallah we can continue with our civilization in a better form, in a more holistic, more balanced form, which is consonant with the holistic values of Islam, of Iman, Islam and Ihsan, of the spiritual, emotional, mental and physical realization. So what is important is how are we going to sort this out. And I'm going to show you a video of Professor Bendell, another 8 minutes or so, of how he says that when we are having this reaction, all of us, when the X come, when this climate change affect us within the next few years, what will be our psychological reaction? Because we are positive climate psychology, we want to overcome most of those challenges. And those challenges, what are do? One is anxiety, and in Islam we have to have certain amount of anxiety, but Allah tells us, La khawfun wa la hum yahzanun. You should not fear. Fear of the future nor grief of the past. So now the past is gone. The future is very bleak in terms of climate change, but we have to find a positive way of working together to resolve the challenge. We will be shocked. We have shocked because a lot of us have children, grandchildren. What are going to be for them? Skepticism. Some of those climate skeptics. These are people like Donald Trump and the GOP, the Republican Party, who just keep on, just like an ostrich, put your head under the sand and say, oh, there is no problem. But the big body of knowledge in terms of climate change now, with more than 25,000 climate scientists all over the world, paper after paper that have been submitted to the International Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, and all of them are saying the collapse is coming. So how are we going to overcome so that we do not face the full impact of the collapse? That's the only way, whether it's geoengineering, whatever that need. Now they're thinking about all kind of ways and means to do it, but at the way, the trend and all the graph, all the modeling that we see, we are going to go beyond 4 degrees to 6 degrees. At that point, humanity will just go extinct. So this is where we have to overcome those who are skeptics. A lot of us will be angry because, but we are part of the system. This greedy, capitalistic base, neo-economics, this kind of just grow without thinking, exploit all the natural resources, just industrialize everything and just do everything on a scale. Whether you destroy the earth or not, that is not the issue. But this is where we are part of it also. This 21st century is the most destructive century, and we are part of this destructive century. But we can be angry if we are realizing about it, but it is of not much use. But we have to redirect our anger towards positive action. We feel sadness, grief. This is normal when we know that our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren may not have a future. How would you feel? How would I feel? So that's why it is, in a way, one of the motivation is we have to be positive in the face of the existential challenge. Finally, what is the outcome is all in the realm of the grace, the mercy, and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask for His forgiveness, we ask for His protection from this disaster. But if the disaster comes, then we have to find the best way out of it. And if it cannot be done, then it is just something that we have to take, because we not only live in this world, we have a spiritual world beyond death. So whatever is the outcome, we have to strive, always knowing that we are the steward of Allah, His Khalifa on this earth. Always strive to make ourselves good, help others to be good, and make the world good, inshallah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the impacts, which are becoming clear now. I'll talk about it in two ways. The first is with food. So what happens when the jet stream changes is that it changes our weather. And so the summer of 2018 was unusual. It would have been great if it had just been in Britain, but it wasn't. It was everywhere. Now we have about 4 to 5 months of grain reserves globally. And so we only need a few more years of weather like what we've had in 2018 to have a global food shortage. There are already 800 million people hungry today. But what we're looking at is this problem expanding massively and impacting on people like ourselves quite soon because of these disruptions. We're also seeing the likelihood of an El Nino weather phenomenon returning in Asia much sooner than it should do, and that will also crash rice output in about a year's time. The second area where I see these climate impacts affecting us is through the world of finance, in that we might be able, through organizing in various ways, to reduce the impact of these climatic disturbances to our agriculture, to our sea levels and so on. But we have our very means of payment, transacting with each other, is based on a banking system which is connected to confidence in global markets. And so there's a real risk that as awareness of this predicament spreads and pervades the markets, and it's definitely really scaring the insurance markets at the moment, that will then lead to problems with our means of payment. So that's another area where this could rapidly move through. So so my message is in my paper and my work is that collapse is coming, but I found it in myself, but also in other people I talk to, that it's obvious that denial exists because we don't know how to deal with this information. It feels very deeply troubling, and we fear the pain of looking at this with open eyes. And so what I'm hearing is, the first thing I keep hearing is, we can do it. So people hear this news and think, yeah, because I'm hearing this, we must try harder redouble our efforts at cutting carbon emissions. And that, so it's this idea of, with greater effort within the existing system, we can have some sort of eco-modern future, that we can reform capitalism, we can reform consumerism, and our current way of life will somehow persist. Other people think, well, no, that's not likely. Capitalism and consumer society is going to fall apart. It's over. But we can turn to each other in community and grow our own and grow our way out of this. Now, I think it's really important to have a renaissance at community agriculture and community support, and Transition Towns and others have been doing a lot of good work on that. But in itself, it is not going to be a robust enough response to this predicament we face. The third form of denial is where people point to technologies and say, well, somehow someone extremely smart in a university somewhere will save us. But when you actually look at the proposals for geoengineering, they are not particularly credible. I mean, it's about putting mirrors in space, or quite counterproductive ideas such as putting sulfur into the high atmosphere, which could really mess with a lot of weather patterns. There is one area of geoengineering that I'll mention later, which I think is interesting, which is marine cloud brightening, but most of them aren't. And the direct air capture of carbon dioxide technology does exist now, and it is being mentioned by the IPCC as essential if we are to avert catastrophe, but which basically means sucking CO2 out of the air. But in a paper I saw on it, it meant that the current capabilities for that have to be scaled up 2 million times right now. So we're not there. The technology is not there. So it is a form of denial to think it will stop the climate disrupting our way of life. So I can see what you might be thinking right now. It's been a tough year for me. I mean, to have these conversations, I have these conversations with my friends, with my family, and there's been tears, and it's an immense agenda. You don't really know where to start. So I want to honor that. What I'm going to ask you to do is stand up if you're feeling different types of emotions, just so that we can recognize them and move through them to the next part. So I'm going to tell you what the emotions are. Okay, stand up if you're feeling anxiety right now. You can look around at each other if you want. Keep standing if you're feeling shock. Not too much shock. Okay, good. Stand up if you're feeling skepticism. Good. I think I should send you my paper and debunk it, and I'll be super happy if I'm wrong. Next, anger. Stand up if you're feeling anger. Okay. Sadness. Stand up if you're feeling sadness. And stand up if you're feeling grief. Okay. And finally, stand up if you're feeling motivation. Interesting. Please have a check at who's standing up right now. Have a look round so you get a sense of that. Because I'm often accused now of by my critics, of demotivating people. Jem, you can't talk like that.